The pandemic has been an excruciatingly hard time for many people, but it has been an extremely hard time for people who struggle with mental illness. I wanted to interview people and discover how they coped, as well as bring light to the stigma around mental illness and whether or not we can do anything to change it.
Hello, I'm Eli, or Elijah, the owner of By Design for Silence Studios. I'm the maker. I live in Oklahoma City, and that's me.
I'm Nina Kurz. I don't know much to say about myself.
My name is Cash Kirshner. I work in the film industry, G&E production. I want to be a director of photography.
Every day is stressful. There's not a single day that goes by that I'm not thinking like, what do I need to do today to like make sure we can keep the lights on? You know, what do I, and then not only that, what do I do today to make sure people know that like we care and we're doing our best?
Especially in the first couple months of quarantine, I could not do the telehealth thing at all. It was like not for me. I need to be looking at somebody. I need to be having that engagement and feeling the energy of the room, standing behind my computer, speaking to my therapist, even the therapist I had had for years. It just felt really interpersonal, and it was really hard for me to attend sessions when it was like that. So that was a really big adjustment for me.
You know, you get stuck in your own house, and then you're not making movies with your friends or things like that. You're not doing these things that usually helped kind of keep those dark thoughts back or you know, help kind of keep you out of your own head. I'm not exaggerating here when I say that, like, man, maybe month 3 of COVID. When would that have been? Like June? That's around the time that I started going to therapy. I sat in my room for 3 days straight with almost no sleep and no food and just stared at the ceiling. I didn't watch movies. I didn't get on my phone. I didn't read. I didn't listen to music. Like all the things that I love to do and that make me really, really happy, I didn't do. And I've always known when the problem got so bad that I didn't want to pop in a DVD, that I was very near something dangerous.
My name is Brandon Ross. Mental health issues and advocacy have been an extremely important part of my life. I've dealt with generalized anxiety disorder and OCD my whole life. The beginning of the pandemic was extremely difficult for me, and I barely left my house for weeks at a time. I was washing my hands like every 5 seconds. It was just like a really stressful time for me as well. I'm doing much better due to applying tools that I learned in therapy over many years, which is why, even though I talked to some people about how their experience was, I wanted to talk to an actual therapist for this portion of the documentary and see what their experience was like during COVID.
I'm Victoria Coughlin. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I've been in private practice for about 25 years in Oklahoma City. In the beginning, I had no idea what was going to happen, right? Because I see everyone in person. My office is small and intimate space. Started doing online, moved around on many different platforms because some were good and some dropped you way too much or fuzzy or pixelated people. So, but what I did do that was really good and useful for me was I jumped on lots of learning platforms to figure out how to continue to connect online, to talk about what this experience is like now, not getting to be together, talking about body language. What does it mean when I'm looking down or looking up and I'm just thinking? I'm not texting and ignoring you, but I might be contemplating.
The World Health Organization finds of 130 countries, around 3/4 reported at least partial disruptions to school and workplace mental health services, 78% and 75% respectively. So it's not only about the stress of the pandemic and the fear of falling ill or losing work due to a struggling economy, but the changing of the infrastructure as people were unable to meet. And missed psychology sessions and therapy sessions can really impact a person's life. Although 89% of countries reported in the survey that mental health and psychology support is part of the national COVID-19 response plan, only 17% of these countries have full additional funding for covering these activities.
That there is a very large gap in the current community mental health centers in terms of being underfunded and understaffed. There's a very, very large population of our homeless that have mental health issues, that have substance abuse issues. And within that population, a large part of that population is in the LGBTQ plus community and people of color. And those are traditionally those that are underserved, those that are underemployed. And so we need a lot of work done within, we need more education. We need more housing. We need ways that the funding can address, first, safety concerns, housing, food, so that they can address their mental health. They're not going to address their mental health or substance abuse problems if they don't have a safe place to land their head. So it needs to really encompass all of those areas.
Being a kid struggling with mental illness in school, it feels taboo, and it feels like nobody else is going through what you're going through. And when you're acting out your emotions, I didn't ever feel like, even when the school counselor calls you in and they're worried about you and worried about what's going on at home, I never felt like I could talk to them because it felt like I was in trouble.
So yeah, when my friends growing up, a lot of them, especially the fact that I grew up, like middle class, support a family, like I've said. So when it came to any problems that I had, especially dealing with anything I'm dealing with internally, trying to express that to a friend, they'd just look at me like, dude, you have it good. What are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? They just brush it off. And it was always in a pretty gross way, if I'm being honest.
The interesting thing about stigmas is that they kind of are a little bit different depending on regions, and we're here in the Bible Belt, so there's a little bit different stigmas in terms of Christianity, feeling like therapists override people's belief systems. But I think the ones that are continually reoccurring throughout my entire career has been that only the weak or the crazy go to therapy, that therapy is advice and not that it is true educated brain work, that it is actually something of personal development.
I think a lot more money needs to be funded in mental health places and mental health facilities. Even the places that I go to with no health insurance, they're, oh my God, they're falling apart. They're falling apart.
Conversations, man. It starts with your friends, and then your friends' friends, and then it keeps going on. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to be an example of what that looks like,
If something is wrong, just don't be afraid of your emotions, good or bad. I think people need to embrace it. If we continue to just kind of be like, it'll get better if it gets better, it's not going to get better. In fact, it's going to double down and get worse.
Being able to have those discussions with our friends and our family members, our coworkers, and just normalize it. The more that we recognize healthy, ordinary people go to therapy, those kind of things help us destigmatize and take some of the mystery and secrecy away from therapy.
I learned a lot doing this documentary, and I think one of the things that I learned was that there's a lot of different ways to get help with mental illness, and not everyone comes to the same answer, and in a lot of ways there's not one concrete answer of how to cope with mental health issues. But one thing that is for certain is that you have to reach out to someone else, and you can't do it all alone. And I think in a time that kind of forced us to be alone, you had to do even more work. Please reach out if you're struggling with absolutely any mental health issues, because there's people out there who love you and they want to see you succeed, and their whole job is to invest in you and help you develop tools in order to make it through this difficult time.